Welcome back to another Wednesday night class in Hal Lebanon Avenue as the corner of East 9th. We're learning tonight Le'alun Nishmat Simha Stephanie Bat Sarah Cheryl Lynn and Haya Sarah Bat Mikla. We're also learning Le'alun Nishmat Rosa Bat Habiba Ruach Hashem Teneham Began Eden. All the Neshamot should have an Aliyah B'Azat Hashem. This week, Shabbat, we will read two Perashiot, Perashat Matot and Mas'eh. Obviously, we don't have the time to delve into both. So we'll pick Perashat Matot. In the other years we did Perashat Mas'eh. They're all located on Torah anytime. You could hear all of them. Perashat Matot. So Perashat Matot starts out like this. וידבר משה אל ראשי המטות לבני ישראל לאמור. זה הדבר אשר ציווה השם. In English, Moshe speaks to the heads of the tribes of Israel. To the heads of the tribes. Not directly to Bnei Israel, to the Rashi HaMatot, which means the Nesi'im, which means every Shevet had their leader. He spoke to the leaders of each Shevet. What did he say? This is the thing that Hashem has commanded. What is Hashem commanding? Ish ki dor neder laHashem, o ishaba shebu'a le'esor isar al nafsho, lo yachel debaro kechol hayotze mipiv ya'aseh. If a man, also a woman later, will take a vow to Hashem or swear an oath to establish a prohibition upon themselves, they shall not desecrate their word. According to whatever comes from their mouth shall they do. Which means, in simple English, vows and promises, and I swear and I promise. That's very hamur. That's very stringent. You have to be careful what comes out of your mouth. Just like you have to be careful what goes into your mouth, you have to be careful what comes out of your mouth. Especially in the prohibition of nedarim and shebu'ot. If a person makes a vow, as we know, he has to do something called hatarat nedarim. Or, always say beli neder. Because if you say it and you don't say beli neder, guess what? It becomes a neder. So that's what Hashem is commanding Moshe Rabbeinu. Speak to the heads of the tribes of Israel and teach them the commandments and the laws and the rules and the mitzvot of how to annul vows. And the question is, what does it have to do with the leaders of Israel? Why not speak straight to Bnei Israel? In every parasha it says, "Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, daber el Bnei Israel." Speak to Bnei Israel. Here, Hashem says, speak to the heads of the tribes of Bnei Israel, and they will command Bnei Israel. That's the question. Why, all of a sudden, is it changed? So this is before, we see exactly the intricate laws and the details of annulling vows. We have to mention there's a Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit Daf Het. It's really Rashi, he brings a story, Ma'aseh Behulda Vebor. Very famous story, I'm sure you all know it, as you are all Bnei Torah. So Ma'aseh Behulda Ubor, there was a lady that went to get some water from the well, and she fell into the well. And she's screaming out, "Someone help me, someone help me." Along comes a gentleman, and he hears the lady screaming from the well, and she says, "Please help me, please help me." He says, "What will you give me if I help you?" She says, "I promise you I will get married to you if you help me, if you save me, bring me out of the well." He says, "Where are the witnesses?" In order to, they got married, we need witnesses. What does she say? She says, "Hulda vebor," which means this well is one witness, and there's a rat that's going around, that walks around over here, infested New York, infested rats. They're trying to do something about it because Baruch Hashem, the crime is okay, but we got to tackle the rats. Okay, so she says the well is one witness, and the hulda, which is a little rat or a possum or whatever it is, armadillo, is passing by, that's also going to be a witness. He says, okay, no problem. He saves her, he takes her out of the well, and they go along their way, because right now they're not going to get married, but they said to each other they're going to get married one day. This man goes along his life, he forgets about the promise, he forgets about the vow. He gets married, he has a child, he has two children. One child falls into a well, and the other child gets bitten by the rat or the possum or the armadillo, and they pass away. He says to himself, Shemai said, what's going on? It's very strange. For one child, we should never know to fall into the well, and the other child to get bitten by this rat or whatever it is. Something doesn't make any sense. He remembers, the vow that I made such a long time ago. He goes and he finds the lady, whoever he made the vow to, and they end up getting married. Rashi says, from here you learn you have to be very careful what comes out of your mouth. You say something, hold to it. You make a vow or promise in the shul, I will donate this amount of money. Hold yourself to it. Go and pay the money. You promise somebody, I will come to class. Come to class. It's very dangerous. When you say something, you don't say, Belina did. It's very dangerous. I had to throw that in. But it's very dangerous. Not only that, you promise somebody you'll do a job for them. Okay? Or I'll give you this merchandise and this amount of money. You cannot change your word. It's very severe. It's very hamur. We won't get into what the Gemara Masechet Nedarim says about a person that doesn't fulfill his vows. But minan, we should never encounter or experience what the Gemara says. But it's very hamud. You see over here because he said, the vow will be my witness and the rat will be my other witness. And he didn't fulfill his vow. Look what happened. There's a Bet Kebarot, there's a cemetery in Petah Tikva. Segula, very good. The first ever cemetery in Petah Tikva was established in the year Taf Resh Mem Tet, which translates in English to be 1888. That's when they established the cemetery in Petah Tikva. When they were establishing the cemetery and they fixed it up and everything, so one person was telling his friend, oh, I wonder who's going to be the first deceased person to pass away to be buried over here. So his friend mockingly says, I wouldn't mind if I'm the first one over here. It's a beautiful cemetery. 10 days pass, he passes away. And he was the first person to be buried in the cemetery. How do I know? Because till today you could see the grave, and on the grave it says, Berit keruta lisfatayim, which translates to be very careful what comes out of your mouth. He is, it says on the grave, on the tombstone, the first niftar that was buried in the cemetery here in Segula and Petah Tikva. It's very dangerous. Be careful what comes out of your mouth. We're not only talking about vows or nedarim or promises. No. Anything that comes out of your mouth is holy. Hashem says over here, Lo yahel debaro. Don't desecrate your words, which means, to translate, whatever I say out of my mouth is holy. If I promise you, I will meet you. If I promise you, I will sell you. If I promise you, I will buy from you. Or whatever it is. Be very careful to hold to what comes out of your mouth. Perashat Matot, as you know, will always come out in the 3 weeks. So if it always come out in the 3 weeks, called Yemeh Ben HaMetzarim, we have to see what's the correlation and the relationship and why does it always come out in the 3 weeks? So we know what happens when Nebuchadnezzar destroys the Beit HaMikdash. He takes the Yehudim begalut. He takes them to Babel. One of the Yehudim he takes is Sidkiyahu HaMelech. Sidkiyahu HaMelech was the last king of Am Yisrael. He takes him and he says, look, I will make you my slave and I won't torture you, I won't torment you, I won't bother you. Stay in my palace and do what I want. Fine. One day Sidkiyahu HaMelech is passing by the nice office of Nebuchadnezzar. He sees him eating a live rabbit. A rabbit. He doesn't shecht it, he doesn't slaughter it. He's taking it and he's putting it straight in his mouth. And Nebuchadnezzar feels that somebody is watching him. There's eyes upon him. He says, whoa, don't tell anybody what you saw. Why not? Because they'll look at me and they say, what kind of king is this? He has no manners, he has no ethics. And they'll degrade me. So please, promise me, swear to me, vow to me, you will not say to anybody what you saw. So Sidkiyahu HaMelech says, fine. I promise you, my dear king, I won't tell anybody what you saw, what I saw. Few days pass by. Nebuchadnezzar has this lavish party and he invites all the kings from around the world. And Nebuchadnezzar has to go and relieve himself. And now Sidkiyahu HaMelech is there with all the kings. And he hears the king saying, oh, this Nebuchadnezzar, it's such a prestigious king, such a royal king. He's so good. He has good morals. He has good ethics. Sidkiyahu HaMelech wants to say it. And they see that he wants to say something. And they say, what's on your mind? No, I can't say. Now, by the way, when you tell somebody there's something I got to say but I can't say, they won't let you live it down. No, what is it? What is it? What is it? So they keep on badgering him until he says, I saw Nebuchadnezzar eating a live rabbit. Oh, this is what you saw. What kind of king is this? A disgusting king. And Naval. They go and tell Nebuchadnezzar that Sidkiyahu ratted him out or told on him. Nebuchadnezzar, you know what he does? He doesn't say anything to Sidkiyahu. He goes to the Sanhedrin. He goes to the rabbis and he tells the rabbis, open up the Sefer Torah for me and start reading from Parashat Bereshit. They start reading Bereshit, Noah, Lech Lecha, the whole Sefer of Bereshit, Shemot, Vayikra, Bamidbar, until they reach our parasha. And he says, read this parasha for me. And they read in the parasha, if a person makes a vow and he has to annul it, what does he do? He goes to 3 people or he goes to a rabbi and the rabbi can annul it for him. So Nebuchadnezzar says, oh, so you mean you have a way out of the promises, of the vows? That's probably what Tzidkiyahu HaMelech did. He promised me, he swore to me, he won't rat me out. Must be that he went to the rabbis and you annulled the vows for him. How could you do something like that? Now, they didn't do anything. Tzidkiyahu took it on his own terms. They didn't do anything. So he ends up, Nebuchadnezzar, killing the Sanhedrin. He goes and he plucks the eyes out. First, he kills Tzidkiyahu HaMelech's son in front of his eyes. Then he plucks his eyes out and then he kills him. Why? Because Tzidkiyahu HaMelech should have known better. When you promise something, even if it's a Gentile, whatever comes out of your mouth is holy. Lo yahel debaro. In English, do not desecrate your word. Yes, words that come out of your mouth are very holy. Be careful. But the question, like we asked, why does it say Rashi Matot? To the heads of the tribes of Israel. Why not straight direct to Am Israel? So the Hatam Sofer says something cute, but I mean, it's an anecdote or it's something cute. And then we'll see the real reason. So he says, usually the Rashi Matot always vow and promise and they never fulfill. Which means politicians, which means leaders. They always promise you. If you elect me, I will lower the taxes. If you elect me, I will do this. If you elect me, I will do that. These are the tribes. These are the heads of the tribes. And usually what happens in the end, they never fulfill their vows. So the Hatam Sofer says, that's why Hashem says, speak first to the Rashi Matot. Because they should know better. They should keep to their word before going and speaking to Am Yisrael. That's what the Hatam Sofer says. But really, what does Rashi Matot mean? What does the word Matot mean? Matot, mate means a stick. It also means something else. Mate means to sway. Sway means to lean either to the right or to the left. Now, Am Yisrael, we always follow our leaders. We should follow our leaders and we should listen to the rabbis and heed to the rabbis' words. What Hashem is saying, Rashi Matot, you have to first be the example. You, the leaders, have to be the examples first, that you should fulfill your promises and your vows and keep to the word. And then you're able to sway Bnei Israel or lean them towards the direction that you want them to listen to. That's why Rashi Matot, which in other words, Hashem is saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, the leaders should know better. Which means I cannot hear in class, I'll take the example on myself. I cannot hear in class tell you to do something if I myself am not doing it. You understand what I'm saying? I can tell you it's asur to go to the beach. Meanwhile, I don't. But meanwhile, I go to the beach myself. I can't tell you, Rabotai, you can't go to the beach. What are you doing? It's asur. And meanwhile, every Sunday in India, I go to the beach. It doesn't flow. It doesn't connect. A leader should know better. A leader should hold himself to a higher standard. Remember Hebrew National? We hold ourselves to a higher standard, right? We answer to a higher authority or to answer to a higher standard, whatever. I forgot the slogan. But that's, I got the slogan correct, Lenny? Authority. We answer to a higher authority. What's the higher authority? God, yani. So it's kosher? You tell me I could eat Hebrew National hot dogs?
After that, it became different.
But I saw it today with the star K. Not star K, with the triangle K. Okay, we won't get into it. I don't know who you hold by. But anyway, the leaders should know better. That's why Rashi Matot. Speak to the leaders. Let them act let them conduct themselves in the right manner, and then Bnei Yisrael will learn. That's one answer. Another answer is, if I make a vow, how can I annul the vow? The only way is to go to the leader of Bnei Yisrael. Which means Hashem is saying, you know why the leaders have to learn this halakha first before Bnei Yisrael? Because they are the only ones who are able to annul the vow. Nobody else. Halakha, by the way, says, if I make a vow, a promise, I have to go to a mumhe in nedarim. A mumhe is an expert how to annul the vows. If there is no mumhe, 3 regular people could do it. That's why, what do we do in Hataret Nedarim? We get 3 regular people. They might be hachamim, they might be regular people. Sometimes they're amcha. Sometimes, and nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you get ordinary people, fine. If you don't find one person that's an expert in vows and annulling vows and promises, you get three regular laymen, three regular commoners, three regular people in Am Yisrael. That's why, Matot, first speak to the leaders, let them know better. Let them hold themselves to a higher standard, and Bnei Yisrael will follow. And also, let them be the ones that they are the only ones who are able to annul the vows. I'd like to learn a Perek in Shofetim, Sefer Shofetim, Judges. Perek Yod Aleph speaks about Yiftach HaGil'adi. Yiftach HaGil'adi was one of the judges of Bnei Israel, and he waged war against Bnei Ammon. Why? Because Bnei Ammon said that Eretz Israel belongs to us. You stole it from Sihon Melech HaAmori and Og Melech HaBashan. In last week's Perashat, or 2 weeks ago, you stole the land in Perashat Hukat. You stole the land from our forefathers. Therefore, we want the land of Eretz Israel back. Nothing changed. Just like they're doing to us today. They want the land back. They say it belongs to them. Nothing changed. History repeats itself. Just different names of different characters. So Yiftach HaGil'adi goes and he wages war against Bnei Ammon. And he says to Hashem, I promise and I vow that the first thing that comes out of my door that greets me when I come back home, I will take it and sacrifice it to you, my God. Baruch Hashem, he goes, he wages war, he defeats all the enemies, he trumps in his battles, he triumphs everything. He comes back home, the first one to greet him is his daughter. Now he says, I made a vow. Now he wasn't thinking, that he will sacrifice a human being. He was thinking, obviously, a cow or a sheep or a lamb. But who comes and greets him? Daddy, welcome home. He says to himself, welcome home? That's not a good homecoming, That's not a good welcoming. What do? So mahloket. Either he sent her away and he didn't see her his whole life, or he actually took her and he brought her as a korban. Mahloket, we won't get into it. The Gemara asks, but there was a person in that time of Yiftach HaGil'adi by the name of Pinehas. And Pinehas was a Kohen Gadol. And Pinehas, Kohen Gadol, was able to annul the vow of Yiftach. So how come Yiftach didn't go to Pinehas to annul the vow? You just told me that one person is able to annul the vow if he's an expert in vows and promises. And sure enough, Pinehas, Kohen Gadol, was an expert. So how come Pinehas didn't go? Because Pinehas said, I should lower myself. I, as a Kohen Gadol and a prophet, I should go and lower myself to a shofet, to a judge. Let him come to me. And on the other hand, Yiftach HaGil'adi said, I, as a king, because really he was a king, as a judge, I should lower myself to go to the rabbi, to go to the Nabi, to go to the prophet, to go to the Kohen Gadol. No, I'm not doing it. This guy says I'm not going to him. And this guy says I'm not going to him. And meanwhile, in the interim, what happens to the girl? Mahalokat, as we said, either she was sent away to the hills, to the mountains, or she passed away. Fine. They were both punished. Yiftach HaGil'adi was punished that he was buried in the cities of Gil'ad. What does that mean? He was buried in the cities of Gil'ad. He died a slow death. As he was walking the street, his organs and his limbs started falling off of his body. We should never know. Every time his hands fell, they were buried in a certain place. His leg, buried in a certain place. His ear, buried in a certain place. So he was buried in the cities of Gil'ad. How do you bury one person in the cities? Because his limbs fell off. That was the punishment of Yiftach for not going to Pinehas. What was the punishment of Pinehas for not going to Yiftach? He lost his Shekhinah. He lost the Ruach HaKodesh for a short time. Okay. The question is, Pinehas, you should know better. You should know better that you have to go to him. You're a mumuhin, right? You're an expert. Forget about your kavod for a second. Who cares? You're saying it's demeaning to me to go to him. Forget about the kavod for a second. You know that the guy has a vow right now. He doesn't know what to do with his daughter. Everybody knows. So lower your kavod a little bit and go to him and annul his vow. What's the answer? The answer is I can only annul your vow is if you are submissive to me, subservient to me, if you heed to my word. As I told you many times, it's incumbent on Am Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael, to listen to their rabbis. Because if we hold our rabbis to such a high authority, a high degree, or to a high level, and we want all the berachot, and the rabbis promise us berachot, if I don't respect this rabbi, the berachot that he promises me won't come to fruition. I have to hold of him, I have to respect him for the berachot to come out from his mouth to be hal on me, to do a change, to make a change on me. You know what Pinahas says, Eliyahu? Pinahas says, if I go to Yiftach, if Yiftach didn't come to me, that means he doesn't hold me in high regard. If he doesn't hold me in high regard, my annulling his vow won't work. Because the only way I can annul his vow is if he's subservient to me, if he gives me kabod. It's not that I'm looking for my kabod. That's the way of the world. Matot. Speak to the heads of the tribes of Bnei Israel. If they listen to the rabbis are able to promise you parnasa. You know, we all want segula parnasa, we all want segula l'shidduch. Well, it will work if you listen to what the rabbi says, if you believe in the rabbi. What's the famous story? A lady comes to the rabbi and she says, Rabbi, give me a beracha for a child. I'm married for 25 years, no children. The rabbi says, you want a beracha? You want to have children? Go buy a baby carriage. Rabbi, I asked you for a beracha. You're telling me to buy a baby carriage? That's what it's called, right? A baby carriage? A stroller? Right? Go buy a stroller. Rabbi, what does it have to do with anything? He says, because if you really believed in my power and I give you a beracha, that means you will have a child this year. That's why I'm telling you, go get yourself a stroller, right? Don't tell me now, you can't buy things beforehand. What will people say? We don't hold of this stuff, right? But go buy a carriage, go buy a stroller, because if I'm telling you, you will have a baby, go do something to show that you believe in me. That's one story. The other story of Rabbi Abraham Galanti in Eretz Israel. I'm sure you all know the story. It wasn't raining for a few months in Eretz Israel. They come to the rabbi, they say, Rabbi, we need rain. He says, you want rain? No problem. It was the middle of the summer. You want rain? No problem. Tomorrow morning, we'll go up to the mountain, we'll pray, it will rain. Rabbi, you sure? I'm telling you. Fine. The next day, they all come. Rabbi, let's go. Top of the mountain, we'll pray. He says, it's not going to rain. But Rabbi, you promised us. If you really believe in my beracha, where's your raincoats? Where's your umbrellas? I believe in the rabbi. The rabbi's beracha. I believe in him. You really believe in the rabbi's beracha? Matot. The rabbi's beracha could only come to fruition if you really hold the rabbi in a high degree, in a high authority, in a high level. But if you go to the rabbis and only give them kabod in front of their face, and in the end, and behind their backs, you talk about, the rabbis are all about money, the rabbis don't know what they're doing, the rabbis are all about kabod, the beracha is not going to work. That's what he says over here. Pinahas says, I could go to Yiftach, no problem. But I can't annul his vow because he has to be submissive to me. He has to lower his kabod to me. Not that I'm looking for my kabod, but that's the way of the world. That's the way how it works. You know, we see this from Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, did Aharon worship the golden calf? No. So why was Hashem very upset at Aharon? Because he was an accomplice to the crime. Even though he didn't worship the Egel HaZahab, he was an accomplice to the crime. Fine. So Moshe Rabbeinu prays for Aharon in Perashat Ve'ethanan. He says, Ve'gam Aharon it'annaf Hashem bi. And Moshe Rabbeinu was able to pray for Aharon. But the Gemara says he prays for Aharon that Mehsa, his tefillah did something called Mehsa. What does that mean? Really, Aharon was supposed to pass away, him and his 4 children. Nadav ve'Abihu, Elazar ve'Itamar. But Moshe Rabbeinu was only able to save Aharon and Elazar and Itamar. Why wasn't he able to save Nadav ve'Abihu? Because Nadav ve'Abihu, says the Gemara, they used to walk behind Moshe and Aharon and say, when will Moshe die until we get the Misra, until we get the authority, until we're the rabbis, until we're the leaders of Bnei Israel? Hashem says, if you don't give kabod to the rabbi, how will the rabbi be able to pray for you? Elazar ve'Itamar always respected Moshe Rabbeinu. Nadav ve'Abihu, on the level they're on, we're only allowed to say what the Midrash says and the Gemara says. The rabbis teach us. But because Nadav ve'Abihu didn't hold Moshe Rabbeinu in that high regard, Moshe Rabbeinu says, I can pray to Hashem as much as I want, but if you don't hold me in a certain degree, how can my tefillah work? That's what Yiftach and Pinahas, that's the whole story. That's why it says, Matot. Make sure, Rabotai, especially in these 3 weeks. Gemara Masechet Gitin says, Lo hareba Yerushalayim ella shebizu ba talmidei hachamim. Because they didn't give any respect to the rabbis. Yes, it's something very severe. Very severe. We have to hold our rabbis in high light, in high degree, in high authority, in a higher standard, whatever the term is. We won't speak about it right now. That's maybe a shi'ur for Tisha B'Av. Esteem. Oh, I'm waiting the whole time. I've been saying the class for 26 minutes, and finally you give me the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Aharon. Yes, we have to hold our rabbis in a higher esteem, or in a high esteem. Like I said, we won't talk about it right now. It's an anyan for Tisha B'Av. Inshallah, B'Azat Hashem, we don't have Tisha B'Av this year. But if we do, heaven forbid, then we'll talk about it over there. What happens usually today is why people make light of the words that come out of their mouth is because they say it's only words. I'm only saying it. I'm only laughing. Think that it's only words. Our words have no impact. Our words don't do anything until we realize that with a small text message, we could ruin a person's life. So you see that words do have meaning and words do have impact. And we only say it's only words, right? That's why he's saying, Lo yahel debaro. Put your words in a high esteem, in a high light. Be careful what comes out of your mouth. Lo yahel debaro. Says the Ben Ish Hai, I'll give you a mashal. Says the Ben Ish Hai in the Sefer Aderet Eliyahu, there was a person walking. Well, what's the name of that fancy community in LA? Beverly Hills? That's the fancy one? Okay. He's walking in Beverly Hills and he sees a beautiful mansion with a broken window. And to plug that hole in the window, a person took a rag and he put it over there because there was a window that had the crack. And he takes a rag and he plugs the crack in the window with a rag. And he asks people around, it's a beautiful mansion. Everything looks beautiful about it. But that crack in the window, they couldn't fix it they take it to a glazer, take it to somebody that understands windows. Fix the window up you put a rag in the window? He says, look, this person that owned the mansion was very wealthy. He passed away. He gave all his money to his son, but his son didn't know what to do with the money. He abused the money. He went gambling, he went smoking, he used it for the wrong reasons. Now he doesn't have any money. So there's a crack in the window. What is he going to do? He doesn't have any money to call the glazer. So he takes the rag from the street and he plugs the hole. Ben Ish Hai says that's the mashal. The nimshal is the generations before us understood the power of a milah. They understood the power of the speech. But unfortunately, Yeridat Dorot, slowly. You think 50 years ago they had something called text messages? No. Text messages didn't exist until 1990 something. Remember, the first phone, by the way, didn't have any text messages. You probably think, where are you coming from? The first phone didn't have any text messages. I remember I had something called the Nokia 33. No. Eli, you were in phones, right? What was it called? No. 21. That's the big one, right? No. I'm talking about when they made it smaller now. Right? I had something called Nokia 3390 on T-Mobile. Before T-Mobile, it was called VoiceStream. Right? Remember VoiceStream? Or OmniPoint. Even before. So it only phone calls. No text messages until they came out with a feature of text messages. But wait. You think it was free? It was 25 cents a text message. There was no something, and then they came out with something called free nights and weekends, and people didn't make any phone calls during the day. They had to wait till after 8 o'clock. I can't call you right now. Call me later. What time? Call me 9 o'clock. It's not free right now, right? That's the advancements. But in the older generations, they didn't have something called text messages, and every word, even a telegram, by the way. A telegram. Every word in a telegram costs a lot of money, or every letter costs a lot of money. So you have to be very precise what you want to send in this telegram or in this message that you want to transmit. Why? The value of a word. Unfortunately, today, we speak so much and we send so many text messages and so many social medias and so many forms of communication that the value of the word or the power of the word is very light in our eyes. That's what the Ben Ish Hai says. We're plugging it in, if you want to say with a rag, instead of fixing our speech, we're just taking it for lightly and we're just abusing the power of our speech. The Kabbalistic rabbis say that when a person makes an neder, haz v'shalom, and he makes an neder, he creates an angel. The angel is incomplete until he fulfills the neder. If anybody remembers, I believe it was like the late 80s or 90s, there was a movie by the name of Edward Scissorhands. If anybody remembers that. Yes, this is welcome to the culture section of our class. This is what we do, right? So Edward Scissorhands was created by this professor or a rocket scientist, really, but he was about to give him the hand, and he died of a heart attack. He gave him scissors for hands. He was an incomplete person. Okay, I'm not advocating to go watch a movie. I'm just telling you that was the name of the movie. Edward Scissorhands. He was an incomplete person. Lehabdil elef habdalot. Right? We're not comparing. But when you make a neder, you create a malach, an angel. And the angel is an incomplete angel until you go and you fulfill your neder. Oh, 1 second. So if you don't fulfill your neder, haz v'shalom, we have an incomplete angel. An incomplete angel, does anybody know what an incomplete angel is called? A shed. A shed is an incomplete angel. How do I know? Because when did Hashem create the shedim? Erev Shabbat, before Shabbat. Ben Hashem Ashot, which means it wasn't Friday day, it wasn't Friday night, it was in between. If you want to say, we won't really expand what it means, but Hashem didn't have time, quote unquote, to finish off the angels, so they became shedim. They resemble angels, but they have the dark side to them. They're incomplete angels. So what happens? What do these incomplete angels do, shedim? Do to a person that Haz v'Shalom swears, promises, speaks, but he doesn't fulfill? Bar minan, they injure him. They damage him. So that's why a person has to be very careful what he says with his mouth because of these angels. Further, says the Zohar HaKadosh in Perashat Pekudei, if a person swears or even says something and he doesn't stand by what he says 40 angels excommunicate him in front of God. 40 angels go and they tell Hashem, this guy is not holding to his word. They put him in excommunication. Says the Zohar HaKadosh, and for 40 days his tefillah is not heard by Yeshiva Shel Ma'ala. 40 days Hashem does not listen to his tefillah. So now we understand, what do we do 40 days before Rosh Hashanah? We do Hatarat Nedarim. Why 40? To get rid of this 40. 40 days before Rosh Hashanah, and also 40 days before Yom Kippurim. We do something called Hatarat Nedarim. Says, some people, by the way, they have the custom of doing Hatarat Nedarim every Friday afternoon. You know, every Friday afternoon. By the way, just to let you know, it's not a halakha class, but Hatarat Nedarim doesn't annul all vows. It's not like I could vow right now, you know, I can make a promise to Yeshua, I'll go up to Sefer Torah, Mishay Barach, I'm giving $1,000. And tomorrow I said, I shouldn't have given $1,000. Let's go make Hatarat Nedarim. It doesn't work. You can't make Hatarat Nedarim annul the vows of certain vows. It doesn't work for all vows. Right? What do we say in Hatarat Nedarim? All the Nedarim we will promise from here on in. Not in the back. From here on in. There are different halachot, intricate details. We won't get into it. Just to let you know, an insight, Hatarat Nedarim doesn't work on all vows. So be very careful. Don't say, I'll make a vow, I'll make a promise because I have something called a leeway called Hatarat Nedarim. You have to be very careful. Says the Hida, Lo yahel debaro. Don't desecrate your mouth or your words. Whatever comes out of your mouth shall you do. Says the Hida, if you don't desecrate your words, whatever comes out of your mouth, Hashem will do. Which means, you want something from God? You know, we have a rule. Tzaddik gozer, ve'hakadosh baruch hu mekayim. Rabbi promises, and God fulfills. What power do the rabbis have? How do they have that power? What's the secret recipe? Because when the rabbi doesn't profane his speech, doesn't desecrate his speech is holy. Whatever he says, whatever he promises you, Hashem says, whatever you want, I will do, because you're a holy person. Where do we learn this from? There's a Gemara Masechet Ketubot, Ayin Zayin Amud Bet. Famous Gemara about Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Now Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi's Hebruta, if you want to say, was the Malach HaMavet. His best friend was the angel of death. You know, the angel of death that they put in the cartoons with the stick, you know, the 3-pronged stick or the fork and dressed all in black. That was his best friend. He used to come to him every single day. Hashem tells the Malach HaMavet, today is the day that you have to take the neshama away from Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Today is the day that your best friend, unfortunately, has to pass away. Okay? He takes his sword or whatever he has. He goes to Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. He says, what are you doing over here? You want to play some golf? What are you doing over here? He says, unfortunately, I have to take your soul away. He says, no problem, take my soul away, but show me my place in Gan Eden. I'd like to know my portion, right? Maybe I don't like it. Maybe I want to upgrade. Maybe you give me an economy. Maybe I want business class or first class. Maybe I don't like it. Show me my place. Says, no problem. I'll show you a place, but then, then we got to go. He said, well, 1 second. Give me your sword. Why? Because I know you. You're behind me. You're going to stick your sword in me every single second, every step of the way. Give me your sword. Fine, you're my best friend. Whatever my best friend wants, here's my sword. He says, let's go. Let me show you a place in Gan Eden. Gan Eden is down here on earth. The opening to Gan Eden is down here on earth. They go from here up to Shalim. He says, show me my place. He says, no problem. You see over there, that's your place. He says, I got to get a closer look. Right? I can't see it. Got to get a closer look. He sees it. He jumps in Gan Eden. Now, Rabbi Yosef ben Levi is in Gan Eden. And who's outside? The Malach HaMavet, the angel of death with the sword. He says, what are you doing? Give me my sword back. I'm not coming out. Fine, don't come out. But I want my sword back. He says, no. Your sword only does bad in the world. Only evil. Only you're a wicked person. I ain't giving you your sword back. Right? I'm not giving you your sword back. He goes up to Hashem. The Malach HaMavet says, Hashem, what do we do with this guy? First of all, he's in Gan Eden. Right? Second of all, he has my sword. What do we do? So Hashem says, look, we could only leave him in Gan Eden if he never swore and didn't fulfill his promise. Which means if he always kept his word. Because what did he say? He said, I swear I'm not leaving Gan Eden. So Hashem heard that. He tells the Malach HaMavet, we can only leave him in Gan Eden. Check his records. If any time he vowed anything and he didn't fulfill his vow or didn't stand behind his word, right now we won't listen to him. They checked his records. Every single time he said something, he stood behind his word. They tell him, you know what? You could stay in Gan Eden. However, we need the sword back. Please. The world needs it. You can't just have people running amok. There's some people, unfortunately, their time has come. So the Rabbi Yosef ben Levi says, fine, you know what? I'll stay in Gan Eden, but here, take the sword back. And Malach HaMavet goes on his merry way and he takes the sword back. We learn from here, whatever the guy says, whatever the rabbi says, the Rabbi Yosef ben Levi, Hashem will listen to him. Says Rab Natan of Breslov in his Sefer Likutei Halachot, something phenomenal. He says, just look at the power of your speech. Right now, I have this cup of coffee. This cup of coffee, is it asur for me right now to drink? Is it asur for me to drink? Am I allowed to drink it, Danny? Yes. If I say, it's cold, but I could still drink it, right? If I say, I promise or I swear I will not drink another cup of coffee ever again in my life, am I allowed to drink it? No. Because I just made a vow that I can't drink any more coffee. No. That's it. The power of the speech, you hear what he says? The power of the speech, it's so powerful that something that was permissible to you a minute before, right now becomes prohibited. You hear what the power of speech does? It's only words. But that's what it is. It's only words. And the only words made something that's mutar 2 seconds ago, right now become asud. But he says on the flip side, look how beautiful the power of speech is. The power of speech is so powerful that if you do Haz v'Shalom and Abera, and you stand in front of Hashem, you say, Hashem, I really didn't mean it. Hatati, aviti, pashati. I should have acted in a better way. Daddy, please forgive me. Yeah, we said it's okay to call Hashem Daddy. Abba, please forgive me. Dad, please forgive me. Please forgive me. He says, the power of your speech makes it seem or makes it as if you never sinned before. What was asur to you now or before, right now it's mutar. On the flip hand, what's asur is mutar, and the other hand, what's mutar is asur. How? With the power of your words. I'll read you what he says. He says, Yesh lekowach befiv ha'adam. Person has the power in his mouth. La'asot le'atzmo mizvot hadashim shelo nistaveh bahem. You're able to restrict yourself from things that Torah allows. Right? Like a Nazir, for example. Are we allowed to drink wine? Yeah. A Nazir says, I'm not drinking wine from now on. He took something that was permissible to the whole world and made it restrictful on him. He says, V'hu pele'i. This is a big wonder. He says, Halo be'emet ze hadabar en bo shum isur. Is the coffee kosher? All the ingredients are kosher? Yes. But right now, if I made a vow, I made a swear, it's not kosher to me anymore. Which means I'm able to take something that's kosher and with the power of my speech, make it unkosher. It's unbelievable what he says. He says, Ve'af al pichen, techef kesheomer befiv she'aser alav hadabar. Right away, Danny, when I say it's asur, afilu belo haskarat Hashem. نأسار علاv تخف بإسور حمور من التوراة. I'm only saying, I'm not drinking coffee anymore. That's it. Even without saying I vow, even without saying I promise, just to say, many times you say, I'll never speak to you again. You got to be careful. I won't buy from that guy ever again. You won't see my face again in this store. And then the next day you go because it's on sale. You got to be very careful. You have to be very careful of the power of your speech. That's what he says. Why do I bring you this? Well, obviously, like we said, we're in the 21 days of Yemei Ben HaMetzarim. I mentioned on Shabbat that the first question that people ask when it comes to the 3 weeks is, can I buy clothing even if it's not on sale? That's the first question people ask. Instead of asking those questions, and now that we know the power of your speech and what you could impact, what you could do with your dibur, with your milah, how about you ask, Rabbi, what could I say for Hashem to rebuild the Beit HaMikdash? What should I take upon myself? What should I do? What should I learn? What should I pray for? What should I daven for? If you understand the power of your speech, instead of saying, what can I not do? Say, what can I do to bring the Beit HaMikdash? Use your mouth for the positive. Instead of saying, oh, it's so hard. 9 days are coming, only fish, only vegetables, 9-day menu. The week of Shah B'Av, I can't take a shower with hot water, cold water you're allowed. I can't take a shower with hot water. I can't comb my hair. I can't do laundry. I can't wear freshly learned things. Come on, it's so many restrictions. Instead of looking at the negative, say, what could I say? What could I pray for? What could I take upon myself with the power of my mouth? Maybe it's time, we curbed our Lashon Hara, only an hour a day. Maybe we should say to ourselves, from now on in, I'm taking upon myself 1 hour a day, I will not speak Lashon Hara. I don't think it's hard if you say, I won't speak Lashon Hara. But when does it get hard? When you start using your phones. Because, believe it or not, text messages is like using your words. Like, I'm not speaking Lashon Hara with my mouth, but I'll send Lashon Hara messages. That's also Lashon Hara. But I don't think it's hard. 1 hour a day, you know what, even 2-3 hours a day, best thing, say, I won't speak Lashon Hara the whole time I'm in shul. Or, even better, I won't speak in shul. There's a person here, I won't mention who he is, right here amongst you. He doesn't speak in shul. You want to talk to him? Go outside. Wow. I used to pray in a place called Bnei Binyamin. I won't mention the person's name. They have a person over there. It's almost close to 9 years. He doesn't say anything in shul. You want to speak to me? He says, Sometimes it's annoying, right? Because you want to speak to the guy, he doesn't say go outside. Everybody knows, go outside. Maybe we could do that. Or maybe we could start uplifting people with the power of our speech. Maybe we could say a nice word to somebody. Maybe we could make sure, like I said earlier, I have to work on this also, that some people are sensitive more than others, not to ridicule people, not to say something not in its place. Husband and his wife, a wife and her husband, little children, older children, your employers, your employees. I think that's what we have to do with the power of our mouth. If anybody here is a sports fan, there's a basketball player by the name of LeBron James. LeBron James started out with the Cleveland Cavaliers for a few years. Then he went to the Miami Heat. These are different sports teams, basketball. He went to the Miami Heat for 4 years. He went back to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and now he plays for the Los Angeles Lakers. What happened is that when he started out with the Cleveland Cavaliers, everybody loved him. Loved. All of a sudden, he decides he's going to the Miami Heat. They say, we're not following him anymore. We're not his fans anymore. They start burning his T-shirts. They start burning his jerseys. Even the president or the franchise owner or the owner of the team sent him a very, not nice letter. How could you do this to us? It's not nice. 4 years later, because his wife told him, go back to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and his mother told him, go back to the Cleveland Cavaliers. 4 years later, he comes back as if nothing happened. Oh, welcome. We're your biggest fans. We love you. We missed you. 1 second. 4 years before, you said, we're not going to be your fans anymore. That's it. We're not following you. How can you do this to us? Right now, you say, Let bygones be bygones, like nothing happened. This, Rabbotai, ladies and gentlemen, only works in modern culture. It doesn't work by the Torah. Which means, if one of these friends was a Yehudi, and he said, I'm not following this person anymore, if he wants to follow him, he needs Hatarat Nedarim. You see how strict it is? You're probably laughing. You see how strict it is? Yes, even to say, I'm not following this guy anymore. You know, I'm not on his team. I won't be a fan of him anymore. And now you want to be, guess what? You have to make something called Hatarat Nedarim. What? Okay, listen, some people like sports. What are we going to do? Some people like sports. We can't do, we can't change the whole world. Why do I bring you this? Because we say every Yom Kippur, we say something called Kal Nidre, right? Or like the Ashkenazim say, Kol Nidre. You say Kol, we say Kal Nidre. Or the opposite? No, we say Kol Nidre. What do we say again? Kal, we say Kal. Yeah. We say Kal, the Ashkenazim say Kol. No, I'm not saying anything against Ashkenazim. No, I love Ashkenazim. I'm just saying the differences. By the way, that's how I got myself in trouble last week. I said something about a certain community or certain people, and they said, how could you say this? It wasn't Shemai, it wasn't derogatory. It was just something that I said, no, you should be more sensitive to people. Okay, that's why I'm saying from now, from the onset, I love Ashkenazim. They're all good. You're all good people. I'm just saying there's differences. We say Kal, and they say Kol. Okay. But how does this Kal, Kol, Nidre work? That's number one. Number two, why do we say it on Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur, we know it's all about forgiveness. Hashem's forgiving us. Hashem is amending our ways, or we are amending our ways. We're starting a new page. Why do we say Kol Nidre or Kal Nidre over here? Number two. Number three, there's a midrash, I'm going to read you a midrash that says Moshe Rabbeinu annulled the vow of Hashem. Again, Moshe Rabbeinu annulled the vow of Hashem. How did Moshe Rabbeinu annul the vow of Hashem? So let's start. Says the midrash, when Bnei Yisrael did the Egel, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, "Ve'ata hanicha li ve'yichar api b'hem ve'achalem." Moshe, leave me alone. Stop praying for Bnei Yisrael and let me get rid of them. I want to get rid of my nation. Until Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Vayhal Moshe et penei Hashem Elohav." Until Moshe Rabbeinu says, Hashem, you can't do it. Listen to the midrash. Amar Moshe, Ribbon ha'olamim. Moshe says, Hashem, Ve'lo natata li hafara shel nedarim be'amarta ish ki dor neder lo yahel debaro hu eno mohel abal hacham mohel et nidro be'et she'ish'al alav. Hashem, you gave us a parasha of annulling vows. God, if you don't annul vows yourself, how do you expect us to believe that there's something called annulling of the vows? See, only Moshe Rabbeinu is able to speak to Hashem this way, like that. So Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, says the Midrash, Uma omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe. What does Hashem answer Moshe Rabbeinu? Tohe ani al hara'a asher dibarti la'asot le'ami. Hashem says, again, I'm only telling you the Midrash. It's a very complicated Midrash, what exactly Hashem answers Moshe Rabbeinu. We won't get into it. But Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu like this, if I would have known how much pain it would have caused me by making the vow of getting rid of Bnei Israel, I wouldn't have made the vow in the first place. That's what Hashem says. If I would have known when I made the vow, like I know now, how much pain it will cause me, if I don't have Bnei Yisrael in the world, see how much Hashem loves us, I would have never made the vow in the first place. Ota sha'a amar Moshe Rabbeinu leHakadosh Baruch Hu. So Moshe Rabbeinu hears this and he says, Mutar lecha, mutar lecha, mutar lecha. Hashem, I will annul your vow of getting rid of the Jewish nation. En kan neder ve'en kan shebu'ah. Don't worry, there's no more promise and there's no more vow. What do we learn from this midrash? When can a neder be annulled? Only if you say to yourself, for example, let's go back to the coffee. I make a vow that I won't drink coffee anymore. 10 days go by and I say to myself, I'm so idiotic that I made a vow not to drink coffee. I go to the rabbi, I can't do it. I need to, by the way, I drink like 5 cups of coffee a day. Yes, I know it's not healthy. Yes, what do? I'm in Kippur. Yes, it's very hard. but I like coffee. What am I going to say? So I go to the rabbi, I say, Rabbi, you got to annul my vow. So Rabbi asked me a simple question. Right now you're suffering because you're not drinking coffee? Oh yeah, Rabbi, I'm suffering a lot. If you would have known when you made the vow that you will suffer so much for not drinking coffee, would have you made the vow? Of course not. But when I made the vow, I didn't think about the pain that I will endure 10 days later. The rabbi says, I'm able to annul your vow. Which means, when am I able to annul a vow? Only when in the beginning I regret that I made the vow. Everybody understand what I'm trying to say? I know it's complicated. But if you regret that you made the vow from the beginning, then the vow could be annulled. Otherwise, it can't be annulled. What does Hashem tell Moshe Rabbeinu, Ruby? He says, if I would have known, now I know that if I get rid of the Jewish nation, because you're saying don't get rid of them, now I know that I can't go on, as if God says I can't go on without the Jewish nation. If I would have known this in the beginning, what do you mean Hashem doesn't know? It's very complicated, Midrash. If I would have known when I made the vow that I can't go on without the Jewish nation, I would have never made the vow in the first place. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, tells Hashem, now I'm able to annul your vow. When did this whole story happen? What day of the year was it? No, Kippur itself. Hashem says, Salahti kitbarecha. Hashem forgave the Jewish nation for the Heta Egel. And Moshe Rabbeinu annulled Hashem's vow on Yom Kippur. Oh, so comes back every Yom Kippur. Not only do we say, Hashem, because you annulled your vow, we're able to annul our vows, but we're saying to Hashem something much deeper than that. Hashem, you also made a vow that you will never rebuild Beit HaMikdash until we do Teshuvah. Hashem, please, it's very hard on us. To all Am Yisrael to Teshuvah, or for all Bnei Yisrael to keep 2 Shabbatot, it's very hard. Hashem, please, do us a favor. You see we can't go on without the Beit HaMikdash and Mashiach. Please annul your vow. Just like you gave us the power to annul vows on Yom Kippur, like you annulled your vow so many years ago, 3,000 plus years, you also annul your vow on Yom Kippur. What we learn from this Midrash is that, yes, we have to be very careful with the power of our speech, with our words. But sometimes we say, we regret that we ever made this vow. We regret that we ever made this promise. If you regret and it pains you, then the rabbi is able to annul it for you. Otherwise, somebody behind me? Otherwise, you can't. Is there somebody behind me? No, I don't know. I feel like a presence. Maybe somebody came in the spirit, right? So then you're able to annul the vow. There's the Gemara, Masechet Ketubot, Samech Bet Amud Bet. And we'll conclude with this and a few more stories. We have time, Baruch Hashem. Ketubot Samech Bet Amud Bet. The Gemara is about Yehuda Bered Rabbi Hiya. That's his name, Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Hiya. He used to stay very late in shul, learning. And whenever he used to come out after learning, a pillar of fire would accompany him back home. That's how he was great. You know how Bnei Israel had the pillar of fire in the desert for 40 years? He had every time going back home from the yeshiva, he would have a pillar of fire escorting him or accompanying him back home. Says the Gemara, Yom Ahad Meshechte Shema'ta. One day, usually every night he stays in yeshiva till 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. And when they see a pillar of fire walking, or pillar of fire, they know that the rabbi is about to go back home. One day, says the Gemara, he took a very long time. He lost track of time. Instead of 11, instead of 10, took a very long time. Now everybody said, where's the pillar of fire? Where's the pillar of fire? Must be that he died. Why he's learning. But he didn't. He took a very long time learning. They said, must be that he passed away because there's no more pillar of fire. He didn't pass away. But when he finally left the yeshiva to go, before he got to his house, he passed away. Why? Because the people said, must be that he passed away. Berit keruta lisfatayim. Be very careful. Asks Rabbi Hanan Wasserman, alav shalom. He says, but one second. But when they said that, they didn't mean for the rabbi to pass away. They were saying it very innocently. Must be that he passed away. So why did the rabbi really pass away? He says, from here you see that the power of your words is like a sharp knife. If I play with a knife and I throw it on somebody and I kill him, can I say I didn't mean it? You should know not to play with a sharp knife. You meant it. You didn't mean it. Hayim ve'mavet beyad halashon. It's in the power of your tongue, in your speech. Again, it's not only vows and promises. Your speech, regular, mundane speech, you have to be very careful. That's what the pasuk says. Kechol hayoseh mipiv ya'aseh. Be very careful. Stand behind your words. The Baba Sali, alav shalom, took his son-in-law, Harab Yehudayov, to a Yehudi that was 108 years old to get a beracha. After he got the beracha, he asked the Baba Sali, his father-in-law, he says, 108 years old, how did he get that beracha? He said, because Rabbi Yaakov Abu Hasira, my grandfather, says the Baba Sali, was missing one person for a minyan. And this person was passing in the street, and he told him, if you come fill the minyan, I give you a beracha, you should live to 120 years old. And he was 108. So he had 12 more years to go. Why? The power of the Sadiq, the power of a word. This is the positive. Imagine, Haz v'shalom, how much damage you could do with a negative word. They say about Rabbi Hanan Wasserman, alav shalom, and we mentioned him before, that there was a few, up to no good, some people that wanted to make trouble in the neighborhood. You know where that's from? Anybody know where that's from? Well, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Wow. That second piece of culture tonight, I guess nobody got it. Okay. I don't know if I should edit that part out or not. But anyway, there was people that up to no good, they started making trouble in the neighborhood on the yeshiva of Rabbi Hanan Wasserman. Biryonim, these big guys, Abadai, Abu Antar kind of guys, big guys. So they come to Rabbi Hanan Wasserman and they want to hit him. And they pick up their hands and they want to hit him. And he says, just don't use your hands. Just don't use your hands. The next day, the whole group of people that came to hit the rabbi were paralyzed from their hands. Because the rabbi said, just not the hands, just not the hands. But the rabbi didn't mean it. You're right. You didn't mean it. But you are a rabbi. Be very careful with the power of your speech. And Rabotai, I'd like to conclude the class with one small point. Maybe we should take into consideration. Why do we read Perashat Matot in these 3 weeks, in these 21 days? Because we tell Hashem, you have to stand behind your words. You want us to stand behind our words? You have to stand behind your words. Hashem says, what words are you talking about? We say in the Amidah, Tishkom betoch Yerushalayim elcha ka'asher dibarta. Hashem, you promised us, you said, Kabiyachol, with your own mouth, that you will rebuild Beit HaMikdash. Stand behind your words. Hashem, stand behind your words. The Yemei Ben HaMetzarim is no laughing matter. It's serious. We have to fix ourselves. Speech, sani'ut. As you see, the topics are revolving all about that, how to fix ourselves in Yemei Ben HaMetzarim. Be'adat Hashem, take the power of your speech. Understand what you have in your mouth. Understand what you have in your hands, better yet. And Be'adat Hashem, may Hashem yimar sarotenu dai. Rebuild the Beit HaMikdash ka'asher dibarta, like Hashem, like you promised. Hashem should stand behind His word and rebuild the Beit HaMikdash like He said. Send us Mashiach Tzidkenu. We have every Wednesday night over here, and every Tuesday night. Tuesday night we have 8:30 to 9:30 halakha class, men and ladies in English. 8 to 9 every Wednesday night, as you see. 8 to 9 every Wednesday night Perashat class in English for men and ladies, and 9 to 10 in Arabic for men and ladies. And as usual, Shabbat. Look for the schedule coming to a WhatsApp near you. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hanania ben Aksha Amir. Nesagil baruch hu lezukos lefichach. Il ba lehem Torah amdo shema'ana haves ma'asutko. Yadil Torah v'yadil.